We're Hasani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, welcome everyone to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hasani.
And my name is Roland.
And we're here to talk to you about the issues that you are concerned about. We started yesterday talking about what? Talking about trust. I don't trust you. But we were focusing more on the internal struggles that people have within themselves that lead to their own trust issues, separate from what someone may have done. And oftentimes these issues started prior to the relationship. And so today we're going to continue in that conversation to talk about, well, how can I trust? How can I trust? How can I begin that process? And so you're tuning into the Couples Academy Show. We want to know who you are, what city, state, and country you're representing so that we can honor you. We want to thank you all for tuning in daily. But before we get started, as we always ask you to do, to like, share, and subscribe. Let the community know that we are live today so that they can be a part of this amazing conversation. And to all of you who watch the replay, we don't know who you are, but we appreciate you. We get calls in, we get people who attend the Last Chance Weekend who we've never heard of, we've never seen, and we're always amazed at what impact this has had on you and your willingness to take things to the next level to restore your relationship. On that note, Last Chance Weekend is coming up the second weekend of August. Make sure you set yourself up for success and register today. I want to share this great testimonial with someone who came to the Last Chance Weekend who experienced transformation, and then we'll dive into today's topic. So stay right there.
My name is Shanice Rollison. I'm from Virginia. My husband and I have been together for 12 years, married for 8. We came to Last Chance Weekend because we were on the brink of divorce, literally about to file. I was excited the first day coming down here and hopeful, but during the process, I decided that I was leaving the next day. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be involved. I couldn't take it anymore. But I came back anyway, trusted the process like everybody said, and we went on a field trip. The field trip gave me a new perspective that let me listen to my husband and believe him instead of believing myself. The rest of the day gave us insight that we haven't been able to get for 12 years. 12 years of misunderstandings, arguments, feeling like the other one was doing things on purpose. And we left feeling really hopeful and partially restored, but afraid that when we got home, things would go right back to being the same. The third day today has been amazing and extremely eye-opening. I love my husband more than I did when I met him. I feel like he feels the same about me, and we're genuinely excited, able to let go of the past and look forward to the future. So for anybody who's thinking about it, if it's worth it, come. It works. It really does. I know all the videos say it. I thought it was corny, but it works.
That's right. That's the last chance weekend, August 12th through the 14th. It's always powerful to see the transformation that couples go through. We want the same thing for you. So make sure you register, because one of the things that you struggle with is your ability to trust your spouse. And that's why we're diving into today's conversation: how to trust again. What do we need to do to begin to trust again? Understanding that trust is one of the foundational pillars of a healthy relationship: openness, honesty, transparency, the ability to open up and share. That is the foundation. So let's dive into some tips today. Excited to hear what Roland has to say. But let's go to the first one. Number one, you have to acknowledge your feelings and practice being vulnerable in small steps. Now, once again, acknowledging your feelings is really taking ownership of your stuff, because oftentimes we look at our spouse through a lens. The lens that we look through is based upon our own internal thoughts, our own internal feelings, things that are going on inside of us. Understanding that, yes, we live in a world, but there's a world that lives within us. And if there are insecurities and doubts and all types of things that we struggle with, we talked about yesterday the fear of loss, the fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection, past hurts, past traumas that have caused us to have a leaning of mistrust, distrust for multiple people, including our spouse. So owning those feelings, acknowledging those feelings, and then allowing yourself to have vulnerable conversations with your partner is the beginning of the journey of rebuilding trust. What say you?
Well, I think we have to go back to the basics of taking responsibility for our feelings and our openness and our willingness to be open. What is responsibility? A man's ability to respond, a woman's ability to respond to those vulnerabilities, those soft spots within ourselves that would allow us to open up, to be transparent, to be honest, and to have the openness of conversations that we otherwise wouldn't want to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you have that, when that begins to occur, it opens up a pathway for connection in your relationship. And that kind of leads us to the next point here, and that is this: be honest and communicate about the key issues in your relationship. Now, I want to say the key issues because the fact of the matter is, it may seem as if we can't talk about anything without getting into an argument, getting into a fight. It may seem as if the problems that exist in our relationship are so mounting, like they just one gets stacked on top of the other. And if it's not about the finances, it's about the kids, it's about our sex life, it's about the way we communicate, it's about the bills. It's just always something, right? But the reality is that is not the key issue. The key issue causes problems to manifest in all of these areas. And for many people, it is: I don't feel safe. I don't feel protected. I don't trust. Whatever the internal, Danielle talks about it all the time. There's two conflicts going on: the conflict that we have with our partner, but oftentimes that may be a result of the conflict we're having within ourselves. There's a story we're
Mhm.
telling ourselves. There's a feeling and a thought that we're struggling with internally, and it manifests out and shows up in all of these problem areas. And oftentimes we're so busy pointing the finger, shifting blame, making things about the circumstances we're dealing with rather than the core issues. And if we don't take the time to address the core root issues, problems will continue to surface. And so, Roland, oftentimes in counseling sessions, if we're working with couples on a weekly basis, there are some couples where every time you meet, we're talking about this situation, in this circumstance, in that problem, and this week this happened. And I say, guys, listen, this is not going to help you. We can continue to talk about every single problem and situation that you have, or we can dive deep into the root issue that will, because once we correct that, it may solve all of these issues that keep manifesting on a weekly basis. And some, when they're willing to go deep and be vulnerable and explore the real issue, they're able to solve a lot of their problems.
we call it scatterbrain. We're all over the place. Like we have all of these issues, all of these circumstances, all of these situations, which they will be there. But to your point, until we get down to the bottom root issue, the root cause of our communication, in order to be able to identify and solidify some things, we're going to be trying to move from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, without tapping into that underlining foundation. Because a lot of times what happens, we have the circumstances, we just don't know how to respect one another's opinions
Mm.
about the circumstances. And so when we can't respect one another's opinions, then that's when we have a breakdown in communication. Because now I want to be heard. No, I want the last word. And we never get to the circumstance. And that's why the next week we're dealing with all of these circumstances again, because I didn't get the last word last week. I'm going to make sure I get the last word this week. Or I'm going to make sure that, I have the total dominant say on the matter, and we never get to the matter. We keep majoring in minors.
So this forces counselors to become referees, right?
Yes.
They're
Yes.
they're they're breaking up fights. They're
Yeah.
trying to establish rules, right? We're constantly taking breaks and pauses, get some water, cool off before you get back in the ring. Like that's not our job, right? And so to your point, that's why it's so important to have rules of engagement for
Wow. You
effective
said it.
communication, creating a safe environment so that you can have solution oriented conversations. Because most of us have our master's and PhD in everything that's wrong, all the problems,
Right.
but we don't even have a GED in the solution. Like
Right.
we need to shift focus and stop trying to look at our spouse as our adversary, our enemy, and our opponent, realizing that ultimately we're on the same team.
Yeah, I mean, we have to press pause and just realize that, listen, in order for us to resolve the issue, we have to first face the issue. And a lot of times, the issues are not the issues; the issues are within ourselves,
Mm.
and we don't want to face that issue. So what we do, we deflect. We deflect on the circumstance. We deflect on the other problems, and never really get down to the real solution of the matter. So if we could turn back on ourselves, face that man in the mirror. Let's start with the man in the mirror, then we can get somewhere.
I think you hit on a very key point. The issue is within us. We like to believe here at Couples Academy is that your marriage doesn't own the issue. Your marriage owns the conflict. And the
Hmm.
conflicts are created by the individual issues that you bring into the relationship. Once those issues go away, the conflict goes away. Does
Hmm.
that make sense? So
Hmm.
you have to work on the issues that are inside of yourself. And so in terms of how to trust again, oftentimes we think trusting our spouse again means simply that our spouse needs to fix certain things, correct certain things, curb their behavior. But really, wait a minute, if my trust issue starts from within, what I really need to do is this: I need to challenge my mistrustful thoughts.
Hmm.
Like all the suspicion that you have, the doubt, the fear, the insecurity, that's something that you own. And so rather than being quickly led, right, and reacting to that thing, you have to ask yourself, is it true that these feelings are valid? Is it true? Because all of the suspicion that I have, every time I search out to figure out whether he's really doing or if she's really doing it, oftentimes my suspicion is corrected, not confirmed. And so
Hmm.
sometimes you just have to be able to sit in that thought, sit in that suspicion, and begin to do what's necessary to challenge oneself, giving your spouse the benefit of the doubt in order for things to turn around. What are your thoughts about that, Roland?
It is, you're so true. And when we start talking about the Enneagram, which I absolutely love, we can identify certain traits of a person's personality, right? And then we find that this person is a unhealthy number, or this person is a healthy number. And most times when we're operating unhealthy, then we have these suspicions, we have these thoughts in our heads that really don't play out as we think they should, simply because they're fiction. They are not the reality of what's really going on. And we tell ourselves these stories. We have this narrative and this storyline. We jump on this train that's going absolutely nowhere, and we're saying that we're enjoying the ride, and we are absolutely wrong in every situation. We have to fall back on ourselves, give ourselves the opportunity to literally look at the situation and look within ourselves to make sure that we're not, taking this train somewhere that it doesn't even have a destination to go.
You're absolutely right. Listen, guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about how to trust again. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. Stay tuned, and we will be right back for more conversation. Hey guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. My name is Hasani, and we got Roland with us here today. He is one of the Couples Academy certified practitioners who's been helping to save and restore relationships with people all around the world. So make sure when you reach out for that discovery call, request him, because man, if you're enjoying him on the show, wait till you get him into a session. He begins to unpack certain things and guide you through a process and give you strategy and implementation that will be helpful for your life and for your relationship. We got a couple comments here. We want to jump into it. DJ, PhD and everything non-important. That's so true. We, as you say, we major in the minor. And when we get caught up in minor things, it keeps us from really focusing on what's important, and we never get to any type of resolution. Nelly says, deflecting is a huge issue. Face the man in the mirror. Yes. I think that's how you say it. I think that's how women say it. Yeah. Like we don't have permission to say it like that, but that's what I think she said. But yeah, the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror is all critically important because at the end of the day, I'm the lowest common denominator in my relationship. And until I begin to work on me and get things together, nothing is going to change.
It's just a matter of, listen, we have to want to be a better version of ourselves. And a lot of times, we grade ourselves an A+ when we really like a C-. And we don't want to be honest about that. We always want to grade ourselves above average, above where we really are. But we have to learn how to look within ourselves, face ourselves, and realize that we always have work that needs to be done. And when we can do the work on us, then that work will actually spread out to other areas. So that way we can tackle things a little bit differently and a little bit better, so we can have better lives for all of us.
I think that's true. Even the scripture says, don't be high-minded and boastful. Don't think more of yourself than what you should. Scripture says that pride comes before a fall. And I don't know whether it's false pride, if it's a defense mechanism, if it's just we're just completely oblivious to what's wrong with us. We want to puff ourselves up. We want to build up our self-esteem. And so we don't see the deficits. We don't see the cracks, or at least we don't acknowledge them. Maybe we do see it and we do know it, but we're speaking the opposite, trying to convince other people that we're bigger and better than what we are. Maybe we're trying to convince ourselves, but the reality is you need a proper assessment of who you are, because if you think of yourself as being better than you actually are, then what room is there for you to grow? How are you being teachable? How are you being coachable? And then what happens is now you point your finger and only look at your spouse for the changes that he or she needs to make, because you're better than that. You don't have to make any changes. And it's crazy because I hear people say oftentimes, every now and then, my spouse, they're 100% responsible for what's wrong in this relationship. And I haven't done anything right. I've been a perfect mother. I've been a perfect wife. I've done everything right. I've been the perfect gentleman, the perfect man, whatever. And it's just like, really? Really? Because I always thought it was a two-way street. I always thought, even though we're dealing with this major issue at hand, the big elephant in the room, there were issues prior to. And there have been issues along the way that you have contributed to. But if you don't take any ownership, it leaves a person feeling like, good God, what hope is there? Because they always think they're right. They think they're perfect. They won't get off their high horse. So how can change actually take place in a person? It's all my fault. No matter what happens, I'm the culprit, I'm the victim, I'm the villain. And so what do we do with this? And to your point, Roland, I think we need to just have an honest conversation with ourselves, looking at the individual in the mirror, realizing that we have some stuff that we need to work through as well.
The book of Galatians says, a man, he who think himself to be something when he is nothing, deceiveth himself. Right. And a lot of times what we don't even realize is that we are following generational traits from our families, how we were raised, how we were brought up. And to us, it's normal because this is who I am. This is how I've always been. This is how I've always done things. And I've gone into so many companies and, I get there and they say, well, this is how we've been doing it. This is how we've always done it. This is how we used to do it. And I say, yes, you're doing a great job and you're doing a great job wrong. That is not how it's supposed to go. That's not the correct process. Let me show you an easier way. Let me show you the correct way. Let me show you a better way. But a lot of times we get comfortable, right, in dysfunction. Dysfunction becomes the norm. Dysfunction. And dysfunction is not just a surrounding. Dysfunction can be within ourselves, can be within our minds, can be just how we operate and how we do things. And then we find ourselves trying to figure out why things can't get done, why we can't get things moving, why the ball can't get rolling, because you keep doing it the wrong way and nobody can tell you anything because this is how I've always done it.
We're addicted to the familiar. And interestingly enough, it hasn't been working. And doing more of the same gets you more of the same. But to do something different, it's uncomfortable. It's awkward. It's weird. I can't trust that. And so I stick with what I know, even though what I know and what I do simply doesn't work. And so you're absolutely right. And this is why we say you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You got to be able to try new things and take things to a new level. All right, let's go to the next point here because I think this is important. Assume your partner has good intentions, not bad intentions. And I think when going back to the point, like a lot of my trust issues are reinforced and cemented in my consciousness because I always assume that my spouse is doing something to me, right? Listen, if my spouse does have an issue, if my spouse has an idiosyncrasy that I don't like, right? I can't make the assumption that they're doing it to me, that they're intentionally doing it to harm me. Because if I look at my spouse as somebody who's intentionally, consciously, willfully doing something to bring me harm, how can I open up? How can I be vulnerable? How can I trust? Because truly, the foundation of trust is safety. And if I don't feel safe with you, I can't trust you. And oftentimes, we're looking at behaviors, we're attaching our own meaning to it, our own interpretation to it. We've made it something that it's not. We've built up this stronghold in our mind that would suggest that they can't be trusted. And really, that's not the case at all. So we have to challenge our own mistrustful thoughts, and we have to give our spouse grace, the benefit of the doubt, and assume the best of them, not the worst of them.
For a long time, I struggled with my wife's compassion and passion as agitation. And I didn't look at it from the perspective of she is so passionate about whatever the issue was at hand, or compassionate about me, that I took it as agitation. Why? Because it was pushing me to be better. It was pushing me to be greater. And a lot of times when our spouses are pushing us to come outside of our comfort zone, right? And it's going against the grain. You say it all the time. You have to, there's going to be some resistance, right? Anytime you're going in an upward direction, anytime you're going into a better place, there's going to be some resistance. And we have to understand that our spouses are not our enemies. We've said that 1,000 times. They're not our enemies. So your spouse's passion for something and compassion, you cannot take that as agitation or aggravation. No, we're just trying to push you to be better than you are, to be greater than you are. We're trying to pull the best out of you, and we should be able to do that for both parties, for one another. And that's one of those key issues. Again, going back to yourself. Where do you want to be? How strong do you want to be? How
Yeah.
much weight do you want to carry? How much weight do you want to lift? So we have to go back to ourselves. It all circles back around to us.
Facebook user says Roland is preaching now, and here we go. Yes, I think that's how that's pronounced. You got a whole lot of Yes fans. What's going on, Roland? I don't know. Sherry says, how do I overcome all the lies from the affair? I want to trust, but I keep remembering the lies told. I mean, so this is a legitimate question, right? So now we're talking about if your spouse has done something that has created trust issues within you. Well, in the book, The Audacity of Marriage, 10 Principles of Lifelong Partnership, if you don't have it, I would highly recommend you read it. There's a chapter in there that is entitled How to Heal a Hurting Marriage. And there's a section where we talk about how to get past your past. And in there, it says, oftentimes, in a short synopsis, we relive that past experience again and again and again and again and again in our minds. We're replaying it in essence. And so whatever the lie was, whatever the betrayal was, if it happened some time ago, the fact that we keep thinking about it and meditating on it and marinating in it, we begin to experience the same emotion in the present moment that we previously had, because we're walking through it in our minds. Our minds, our subconscious minds, our imaginations are very, very, very powerful. And so you can experience something in the moment that previously happened, which keeps you trapped in that pain. And it reinforces why you should not trust, why you should not open up, why you should have a wall up. And so my question is, are we just dealing with past lies, or are we dealing with current lies? Because there's a difference. Another part of the process is, of course, your spouse has to take ownership for what was said and done incorrectly. They have to repent. See, there's a difference between apologizing, saying I'm sorry, and repenting. Repenting means I'm going to turn directions and go in another way. I'm no longer going back to the place that I was. So in essence, I'm making changes within me. I'm being open and honest today. I'm no longer engaging in the trickle truth. I'm giving you in the present moment reasons why you can begin trusting me. Right? So there's a number of things that need to be done in the rebuilding process of trust. And so my question is, are you going through a process? Are you going through counseling, whether individual or as a couple? Are you two held accountable? Are you a part of a community? Are you reading some guide or curriculum or course that's guiding you through specific steps in a specific way that can help restore your healing? Because if you're not, and you're attempting to do this on your own, it will be a very difficult journey for you. So we encourage you to get the help that you need. Anything you want to respond to in regards to that statement, Roland?
Yeah. Kathy McCord, she made a good point. She said you must break the habit of being yourself. And a lot of times when we are trying to turn and we have repented, we have to, one, own our stuff. That's the first thing. And then we have to be more vocal about the things that we've done, the things that we've said, the things that we've told, the lies that we've told, and in order to rebuild trust. Rebuilding trust, you cannot say that I want to work on something and be silent about it. When there's construction going on and there's a construction site, what do you hear? A lot of noise, a lot of breaking up, a lot of tearing up, because we're trying to get down to a foundation. We're trying to break up some fallow ground in order to rebuild, right, a very solid and strong structure. So sometimes we say I'm under construction. We say I'm being worked on, but are we really being worked on? Are we really taking out the time for ourselves to break up some things, to break up who we were? If you've been doing things for a long time a certain way, and then you repent and you're turning from that way, yes, a lot of things have to change. A lot of things, your behavior, your tone, your speech, your pattern has to change, and you have to be willing to go under construction, break up some stuff. We need a drill. We need a drill to break up a lot of things so that we can get a better version of who you are. Right? If you say that you've changed and you're trying to portray something to your spouse.
One word. That was a bomb. You have to tear down in order to build back up. Right? So there's a demolition process that has to happen within you before you can be rebuilt and restored back up to what God has ultimately created you to be. That's the scary part, because we don't want to go through that process, because that drilling in our minds, there's so much fear and anxiety and trepidation about the fact that we need to change. Change is scary, and I want to hold on to the familiar, and this is all I know. And you've got, but being an explorer is stepping into uncharted territory. It's divorcing yourself from certain thoughts and feelings and beliefs that you've held on to. It's destroying the old and rebuilding the new. And what you just said was so critically important in terms of what anyone would need to do to begin to trust again. Out with the old, in with the new, but there has to be a tearing down. I couldn't have said that better myself. Guys, you've been watching the Couples Academy show. I hope you got something out of this conversation. We're going to continue because there's so much more to give. And so, Roland, I'm calling you out in front of all these people. You need to come back on this show so that we can go a little bit deeper to give the people what they want. Are you agreeing to come back on? Thank you. I'll accept that as a yes. See you tomorrow. Listen, guys, we love you. Reach out to us. However we can serve you, we are here. Go to the website, couplesacademy.org or 678-200-8996. Take care. See you later.